So, you see the headlines all the time, right? Some massive company gets hit by a cyber attack, and we hear all about what was stolen. But what we don't see is the chaos, the frantic, high-stakes digital battle raging behind the scenes. So today, let's pull back the curtain. We're going to dive into the world of these digital first responders and see exactly what happens in those first critical moments.
Okay, picture this. The alarm bells are screaming, the network's been breached, and the clock is ticking, fast. This is literally the nightmare scenario for any organization. So what now? What do you actually do? How do you even start fighting back against an enemy you can't even see?
Get ready for this number because honestly, it's terrifying. 128 days. That's the average time it takes for a business to even realize they've been hacked. Can you believe that? That's more than 4 months. 4 months for an attacker to just wander around your network, steal data, wreck systems, and dig themselves in so deep you might never find them. All while you have no idea they're even there.
Okay, so before we talk about the response, we kind of need to be on the same page about what we're even dealing with. The term cyber incident sounds so official, right? And we immediately think of some huge, catastrophic system failure. But, it almost never starts that way. It's usually something tiny, a single weird login, a strange alert from the system, that, if you don't jump on it, can spiral into an absolute disaster.
And let's be clear, the fallout from this stuff is huge. We're not just talking about a few lost files. A breach can absolutely tank a company's reputation. Productivity grinds to a halt because, well, nothing works. And then come the lawsuits and the massive fines for not protecting people's data. The stakes, they're about as high as they get.
All right, so if you want to stop an attacker, you've got to learn to think like one. And here's the thing. Most cyber attacks aren't just random, chaotic messes. Nope, they actually follow a pretty clear step-by-step playbook. Let's take a look at the blueprint they use for a digital invasion.
And that playbook, it has a name, and it's a pretty intense one, the cyber kill chain. Yeah, that term actually comes from the military. It breaks down an attack into this logical sequence of steps. Now for the good guys, the defenders, the whole game is about breaking that chain. If you can disrupt any one of these steps, you can stop the entire attack dead in its tracks.
So how does it work? Well, it all starts with reconnaissance. Think of it like a burglar casing a house. They're looking for unlocked windows, weak spots. Then comes weaponization. This is where they build their tool, maybe a custom-made phishing email designed just for you. Then, of course, is the delivery. They send it. Exploitation? That's the moment of impact. The malware hits a weak spot and activates. From there, they install a backdoor so they can come and go as they please. Then they set up command and control, basically their remote headquarters inside your network. And finally, the end game, actions on objectives. This is when they actually do what they came for, stealing all your data.
Okay, so now we know the attacker's game plan. Let's flip the coin and look at the defenders. The moment an attack is detected, a very specialized group gets the call. They're called the Cybersecurity Incident Response Team, or CSIRT. And honestly, you can think of them as the digital firefighters and paramedics of the tech world. They're the ones rushing into the burning building. And their work isn't random either. It's all guided by a formal process called incident response. And it's the total opposite of the chaos the attacker creates. It's an organized, pre-planned strategy. The goals are simple. Contain the damage, kick the intruders out, and get everything back to normal as fast and as safely as you can. And hey, just like the attackers, the defenders have their own playbook. It all begins with preparation, which happens way before any alarms go off. Then you've got detection and analysis, where they're constantly looking for trouble. The second they find something, the goal is containment. You got to stop the bleeding, right? So they isolate the affected systems. After that, it's eradication, getting the threat out for good, and recovery. And maybe most importantly, there's a post-incident review at the end, where everyone sits down and figures out, okay, what did we learn, and how do we make sure this never ever happens again?
So, once the immediate fire is out, the investigation kicks into high gear. This is where the real detective work begins. It's basically CSI, but for computers. Instead of a physical crime scene with fingerprints and fibers, your evidence is just scattered. It's hidden in bytes and code across hard drives, servers, and endless network logs.
And this whole process has a name: digital forensics. The main goal here is to become a storyteller, to piece together the exact timeline of the attack. Who got in, how'd they do it, what did they steal? It's all about finding those tiny digital breadcrumbs the attacker inevitably left behind and figuring out what they mean.
And you can't just wing this stuff. It has to be done completely by the book. First, the investigators have to identify any potential piece of evidence. Then, and this is so important, they have to preserve it in a way that's completely tamper-proof. I mean, if this thing ends up in court, that's non-negotiable. Only then can they start the deep analysis. And of course, they have to document every single step before the final presentation of what they found.
And you know, digital forensics isn't just one job. It's a whole field with all these different specialties. You've got your disk forensics experts, who are wizards at pulling deleted data off hard drives. You've got network forensics pros who can read network traffic like a book. And then you have malware forensics specialists, who literally take the attacker's malicious code apart, piece by piece, to figure out exactly how it ticks.
Okay, so everything we've covered so far, it's all reactive, right? It all happens after the alarm has already gone off. But the really cutting-edge security teams out there, they're flipping the entire script. They've realized that just sitting back and waiting to get hit is a terrible strategy. So now, they're going on the hunt.
And this is what we call threat hunting. It's a proactive mission. You're not waiting for an alert, you're actively searching for threats that have already slipped past your defenses and are just hiding, waiting inside your network. And the mindset shift here is huge. You're not just building taller walls anymore. You're operating under the assumption that someone is already inside the castle and your job is to find them.
Yeah, this quote really nails it. The fundamental belief of a threat hunter is simple. Assume you've already been breached. Their entire job is to hunt for the evidence, the tiny telltale signs and weird anomalies that give away an attacker's presence before they can pull the trigger on their final objective.
And just like everything else we've talked about, a hunt isn't just a random walk in the woods. It's a structured process. It usually kicks off with a trigger, maybe a new piece of threat intelligence, or just a hunch, a hypothesis about where a bad guy might be hiding. That trigger leads to a deep dive investigation, using some seriously powerful tools to search for any signs of trouble. And if they find something, it moves to resolution, where the threat gets booted out, and just as important, what they learned is fed right back into making the defenses even stronger.
So that brings us to the final, really critical question, doesn't it? This whole evolution from being reactive to being proactive, from incident response to threat hunting, it's a massive shift in the world of cybersecurity. It's the difference between locking the doors and hoping for the best versus actively patrolling the grounds looking for intruders. So you have to ask yourself, is your organization just reacting to attacks, or is it out there hunting for them?